Welcome back to Good Morning Transfers. Right, let's get stuck into Manchester United, shall we, Bradley? Sorry, we're going to have to talk about your team. They are looking for candidates for the interim manager position. We know that Darren Fletcher is going to take charge tonight, James Green, at Turf Moor for the trip to Burnley. What about some other contenders, other names in the frame on an interim basis?
Well, if you look at the this morning's sports pages, on the back of most pages, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is there. He is one that Sky Sports News understands has spoken to the club about a potential return. Darren Fletcher, as you mentioned, he's taking charge tonight. He's likely to be in place for the weekend's FA Cup game against Brighton, as well as another name, and Michael Carrick too, who spent a short stint in the Man United dugout after Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was sacked back in 2021. It's so interesting with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, this is going full circle. Remember, he came second with Manchester United 2020, 2021. And I remember at the time he apologised to fans for coming second. How much would those fans and Bradley like second place right now? But that's the situation where we're at. Jason Wilcox, Director of Football, is leading the charge on this. But the ultimate decision will be sanctioned by Sir Jim Ratcliffe. They are looking at an interim replacement, but they're not ruling out a permanent candidate if the right candidate comes forward. So, again, one to watch. But Ollie is certainly looking like the man to return, certainly for the foreseeable until the end of the season.
However, Dan, Manchester United are only 3 points behind Liverpool in a Champions League place. I get it, there will be all sorts of options potentially which they will look at, and maybe even some other names like Unai Emery, who knows, Glasner out of contract, Andone Areola, sorry Molly, there'll be other managers which they will look at in the summer. However, right now, what would you go for? Because the season is still salvageable.
Yeah, no, it's not all doom and gloom. I think the actual form, believe it or not, looking at the table and the points, was actually on the up under Ruben Amorim. I don't think the football was great. I think the system was still too rigid. I know he changed it a couple of weeks ago in Newcastle, and then he went back, and then the subs, and very strange. But I think Darren Fletcher is obviously a club legend. He's been there, he knows the club. I think he's going to win the fans straight away. I think he's going to win the players. They're going to go straight to a back four. It's almost 100% guaranteed for me. They'll go back to what he did. He brought energy, he brought enthusiasm. He'll pick those players that represent him and the club in the best way. So I expect them to have an upturn in form straight away, just like it did when Ruud took over, just like when Ollie took over the first time. That will happen again with Fletcher. The difficult one is they have an upturn in form. They go, okay, Fletcher's ready. Give him the job, give him full reins, and that's what they've done with Ollie. And then obviously it didn't obviously end amazingly, but we'll see what happens.
I think with Darren Fletcher, the feeling inside Manchester United is he is someone for the future, but perhaps right now is a little bit too soon for him in terms of the permanent role.
Let's bring in Bradley Tooth and let's get our teeth stuck into this. Manchester United, come on Brad, talk to me.
You haven't heard that before, have you?
No, never heard that one before. That's original.
Come on, Darren Fletcher. I mean, he loves the football club. He's got 2 kids in the first team. Everyone else seems to have had a crack already in terms of your Michael Carricks, your Giggs, your Solskjaer's interim before he got it on a full-time basis. Why not Darren?
I think it's a little bit too soon to have him as a full-time permanent manager. I think everyone knows at the club that he's kind of being groomed to one day be closer to the first team or be first team boss. But, ultimately we need somebody who's going to give us that upturn in form. The manager can't play up front though. The club has to sign somebody that can put the ball in the back of the net. We're really struggling at the moment for goals. Ultimately we're creating great chances, but what's cheaper, replacing the manager or buying some new players? That's ultimately where we're at the moment.
Yeah, well, who knows? You could be very close to those top 4 positions even come tonight.
Hi Darren. Obviously, when you pick teams in the 18s, they've tended to play with a back four. There's been a lot of talk about the system here. I know you don't want to disclose team news, but is it safe to say that we'll see a back four at Turf Moor?
Well, we don't know yet. I can't disclose that. I think when you talk about the under-18s teams, that's a style and a system that the club thinks is best for developing players. So I think it's a system that we use. I think it's something that's come in terms of how we set up in midfield, how we set up with defenders. So I think for developing players, it's a really, really good formation and system. And at under-18s, it's about development. So I think that's the important thing for us is when I'm leading the under-18s, I'm trying to develop players. So you're picking teams, you're experimenting, you're doing different things, you're challenging them, you're playing young players. So of course you try and win every football game, but fundamentally we're trying to develop players, and that formation definitely suits that. So that's a club formation that we use, and it's a formation that I've been used to playing for a long time as well.
Hi, Darren. You said it doesn't sit easy with you, the circumstances taking over, which is entirely understandable. Did you speak to Ruben before he left yesterday morning?
I didn't have the chance. I've reached out to him. I've not managed to make contact yet, but that's understandable. He's obviously got a lot on his mind, and I've been really busy, so I've not had the chance to. I'd love to, because I had a good relationship with Ruben. He was great with me. He was very welcoming to me and to his staff at the end of last season. In terms of being the under-18s coach, in terms of small communication I've had this year because I've been on another side of the building, always good interactions. And ultimately, he's the manager who gave my son his debut as well. So as a father, I've got a lot to thank him for. And Tyler, although the boys have gone and earned that themselves, he was the manager that did that. So I've got a good relationship with Ruben. So I'm disappointed and obviously for him, but what's happened, and I'm here to sort of try and help the club, and we have to move on quickly, and as I said before, everything I do is with the best interests of the club, and that's why all my focus is energy is going into Burnley.
And I know it's an inevitable question I think I'll ask Ruben as well. Have you spoken to Sir Alex since you got the role?
I have. I don't like to make any major decisions or things without speaking to Sir Alex, and that's something I've done since I've been at the club and since I've left the club. And everything I do, I've got a really good relationship with Sir Alex, so it's probably the first person that phoned actually, so I wanted to speak to him first, and ultimately to get his blessing, to be perfectly honest with you. I think he deserves that respect. I wanted to run it by him what he thought, and he was supportive of it, and he echoed my thoughts, which I've always said: it's your job to do the best for Manchester United. When you're an employee of the club, it's your job to do your best for Manchester United, and it's something that it's amazing when he says something that I try and live and believe every day. So it was comforting for me for him to say that.
Thank you.
Jamie.
Darren, you were obviously a big player here, lots of success. You've been here 4 or 5 years, done all these roles. In your experience, sort of being at United, how much do you think outside scrutiny from people like us, former players, some of your teammates, the whole sort of circus, if you like, how much does that affect or can be a factor for players that you're in your squad now and sort of team performance? Do you think it matters? Do you think it has an effect? Is it sort of part of dealing with being a United player?
I think it has an effect because it's part of dealing with being a Manchester United player. I can only reflect on my experience as a player, and it was there when I was a player. I was a young player. I had to come into the team in a season where we finished second and it's the end of the world. And I've experienced that. What I look back on is, and where I'm very lucky, we had Sir Alex, we had Roy Keane, we had the experience around players around us who protected us and helped us, and fundamentally that's not the case anymore, because there never will be another Sir Alex. So it is difficult, but it's the same in every club. But Manchester United is the biggest club in the world, so that scrutiny, expectation, standard is there, and that's something that you have to deal with. You have to learn to deal with. You have to get help in to deal with. Some people it happens naturally. Some people have to take time to get used to it, and slowly but surely you try and have to deal with that constantly. I think it's life of a footballer. It's a modern day world, and it's something that the players have to learn to deal with, and they will. And sometimes it takes time, and sometimes some people can't, and that's just life, and that's just the way it is. So my thing is, it's there, learn to deal with it, find a way however best suits you, and embrace the challenge of being at Manchester United. Be excited by it, but recognise that there is a lot of scrutiny and a lot of pressure and a lot of noise.
Just on that, Darren, it was something Ruben's mentioned a few times here about the noise, and especially from pundits or ex-teammates of yours. He mentioned it again on Sunday about suggesting kind of what Gary Neville says influences decisions. How difficult is it for this club to get back on its feet when that sort of thing's happening on a daily basis? Do you either need bigger characters within the club, within the dressing room, or do you need some of those ex-players to kind of understand the situation and maybe go a bit easier on the club and the team?
You can't ask them to go easier, because they're passionate guys, and I think they're a right to their opinion, and they're really good. They're engaging. They're good to listen to. I enjoy listening to them. I had the years of listening to them in the dressing room, and I used to sit and I used to listen to them. I used to take it all in. But I think it's. Sorry, what was the first part of the question? It's
obviously a bigger thing now. There's more of these pundits about. You can't miss it on social media. How difficult is it for everyone at the club, not just the dressing room, but executives, coaches as well, to ignore it?
Well, it's difficult, but you have to. I think it's winning football games is important. Winning football games, winning trophies, going on a journey. That's life. That's football, especially here. It's about winning. You know, people want to win football games, people want to be entertained, people have a standard at what Manchester United is and what Manchester United expects. I think fans, especially in Old Trafford, have been amazing in recent years, if I'm perfectly honest with you. I think there's been a few moments here and there, but in general the support that the fans have give players, managers, understanding of the situation, I think it could have been a lot worse inside the stadium. I've probably experienced other stadiums where it has been a lot more pressure and hostile, so maybe the players have to deal with that noise more than actual stadium sort of pressure, so that should help, and I think the fans have been amazing in that, and I'm going to sit here today and ask them to support the players, not me, support the players in the club, because they need it and they need that help. Outside noise, ex-players, it's difficult to deal with. It's not easy because those players have won everything. They've got success behind them, they've got trophies, so it's hard to criticise them back because they've got their medals on the table, so it's really, really difficult. But again, that's what it is being a Manchester United player. Get your head around it, learn how you're going to deal with it, and embrace the challenge.
James?
Darren, what's the sort of mood been like in training the last sort of couple of days, and also have you opted to sort of have any sort of private conversations with players as well? And I know obviously you mentioned Bruno in Mount. Is there any chance on Mainu at all coming back?
Well, Cobby actually did a part of the session today, but he's going to have to be assessed tomorrow. So that was part of the plan, so he'll be assessed tomorrow. I have had conversations with players, and it's been a lot of time consuming, so I actually plan to have more conversations, but yeah, maybe first time experiencing the first day as a Manchester United manager, you don't have as much time as you think, so in my head I had these plans of speaking to loads of players and it didn't pan out that way. So the conversation with Bruno, because that's important because he's a captain and I wanted to speak to him, and actually I focused on a couple of the players who I don't know so well, so Matthias Cunha and Benjamin Sesko. Senna Lemons, I'm actually had a conversation with him not too long ago, but those two are focused on because I've not really got a relationship with them and I wanted to get to know them and I wanted them to get to know me. So the others I know well, I've had a relationship with them in the past, so I focused on those two and obviously the captain Bruno, and then as game time gets closer tomorrow there'll be some individual chats and meetings and just chatting to them in general around the training ground, around the canteen and things like that. I think it's really important.
And is that as much like what you expect from them, or are you actually more interested in hearing what they have to say? And
a bit of everything really. Get to know them, have a conversation, you know, ask some questions about them, how they're finding it, how they're experiencing the club, how they've found things, just trying to get to know a little bit of what I think of them as players, my thoughts on them, how they've been, you know, all that sort of stuff. Just a general chat really, getting to know them, trying to build first steps of a relationship rather than being cold when you know 95% of the squad and you don't know those two. I think it's important that I tried to do that.
One last question for Paul.
Darren, how do you assess the state of mind and the confidence of the players? Because it's been obviously quite a kind of whirlwind 48 hours for them.
I think confidence is part of everyone's at a different stage in confidence, and it's really important in football. But I think you see players coming back from injury who've missed a lot, they're going to be in a certain state of mind. You've got other players who are playing well, you've got other players who are not playing so well, so confidence is up and down. I think the players you could see that, you know, nobody likes to see somebody lose their job. I'm sure you could sense that in the building yesterday. But today, you have to move on very, very quickly, and it's important that we have a good energy going into the game. We can't be going into the Burnley game with not a good energy. So it's important that you have to move on very, very quickly. Football's a cruel game, it's life, it's football, so it's important that we try to create a little bit of energy today and a little bit of spirit, and I think we got that in training today, and hopefully there's more of it again tomorrow.